everyone. I've been asked to come on and give a little demo about how I use Rocketbooks in higher education. So I've been using Rocketbooks for about 5 or 6 years now. I started using them in my classroom about 2 years ago, and then during the pandemic they've become just a critical tool for both my students and myself. So I'm not going to go through how to do exactly everything today, but I'm going to talk about instead situations where I find Rocketbooks particularly useful, and then I will link below the how-tos. I find that the Rocketbook help website is really easy to use and actually very good, and so you can find your how-tos on that website. So now I'm actually going to break this conversation into 3 videos so that you can keep them in kind of shorter little sections. The other 2 videos will be linked below as well. The first video is just going to go over kind of an introduction to Rocketbooks and focus on how they are super useful in the classroom. The second video is going to be on how I use Rocketbooks to do handwritten timed exams. So that's going to be the whole second video. And then the third video, I'm going to introduce a few of the extra features that I find really useful from Rocketbook. Specifically, that's beacons, which capture whiteboards, and then something called Snapcast, where you actually turn your Rocketbook into kind of a live stream. So I'm going to be, this is the notebook that your students would get. It's about the size of a regular sheet of paper. There are also smaller notebooks. I use this one for my own prep materials and for keeping track of meetings and things like that. I'm going to be using this one today as our demo because it fits in the screen better, but just know that your students are probably going to be using this one. So what is a Rocketbook? Well, basically, it's a reusable notebook where you write on the pages using a specific type of pen. These are called Frixion pens. So one comes with the Rocketbook that you purchase, but you can also buy all kinds of other different kinds of pens on Amazon. You can buy them at Target. They sell them at Walmart, Staples, and they're not overly expensive, though they are a little bit more expensive than regular pens. So when you purchase a Rocketbook, you also make an account with a Rocketbook app. The app is free, and the app allows you to easily capture pages that upload as PDFs or other docs like a Google Doc into folder destinations that you set. And you can set those destinations as Google Drive, Dropbox, email. The other great thing about Rocketbook pages is that they are reusable. And so all you have to do is take a wet, damp cloth, and you can wipe off the page, and then you can use it over and over again. So why would you use a Rocketbook over just a regular notebook and maybe even taking pictures of it and sending it in? So the number one thing that I find Rocketbook to be really helpful for in the classroom is sharing handwritten work. Both with me as their instructor and with their peers. So this is especially true and helpful when you're doing things that is really hard to translate from handwritten work to an electronic document that's going to be submitted, right? So a couple of cases where that's where I have found that to be the case is long math problems, right, with lots of mathematical manipulations. It's very difficult for a student to write in an electronic document the way that they would work out a math problem. You can, but it takes a lot of extra time, and it's, there's a learning curve with using those equation editors. The second thing is drawing diagrams. So if they're drawing anything that's not like usual words or something like that, right, where they're trying to show spatially where things are related to one another, Rocketbook is really, really excellent for that. And then the last one, which of course is very specific to or very important to my field, is writing in symbolic representations, for example, chemical symbols, right? So you absolutely in Word can write in using subscripts and chemical symbols, but it takes a long time if you're not super familiar and do that regularly. So all 3 of those examples are hard to replicate in an electronic document format, and so this is where Rocketbooks come in really helpful. So sharing handwritten work, hands down the number one thing that I really love about Rocketbook. The second thing that is really helpful when students use it to take notes. So in my class, my students use it to take notes if they want to. They don't have to, but they can use it to take notes. They use it to hand in exams, and they use it to do some challenge problems that they have to hand in. They're kind of like homework problems. So when they're taking notes, there is the capability of Rocketbook to transcribe the notes that they take, which then makes those notes searchable. So for my students who do elect to use this to take notes, if they have it transcribed, it's not always going to be perfect, but it does a fairly good job that you can go in and kind of tweak. Then they can search those notes, they can format them in a way that makes sense for their studying strategies. All those things are great.